Good morning to everyone. Remember that this is the pre-recording of our session of our topic for today. I'm going to explain you a few things about changes and adaptations for this term. Okay. First of all, remember that you can see the class now or later. Yes. Because the link will be available. But remember that the videos that are going to be recorded have changed into a new process with Microsoft Teams due to new licenses policies, right? So now we record the video, download in our PC or a specific gadget or appliance, and then we need to upload again into Stream, which is the other application of Microsoft, and then generate the link in order to export it to the virtual classroom. So I think that you need to bear that in mind in order to understand that the recording of our videos is taking longer and the data in the video is longer, so I'm making shorter videos because otherwise they will be too heavy to upload again into Teams. Okay. Well, now explaining this, I'm going, as usual, to share with you my screen in order to share you the file and the presentation for today. That includes two things. One is the instruction for fourth term in general terms, yes, and the other one is the lesson for today, yes. First of all, I need to explain you that for the fourth term, we have only 9 weeks of program, 9, not 10. So it's 1 week less than the previous terms. So the time has become shorter, okay? Additionally, the last week was the first week. So now we have 8 weeks. But we need also to take out the week of what we call Semana de Receso en octubre. So we will have then 7 weeks. But remember that we also have Expo Técnica. So with all this stuff of less and less and less time, I had to make choices. I had to take decisions in order to take or to pick the most important things in order to reorganize them in the best and most suitable way in order for you to create and generate your documents and send them in a rank between 6 or 7 weeks because there is not much more time. And remember, the last week of November is typically for remedial evaluations of for term, is not for class. So that's why we have less time. So in the program says that we have classes until November 27 or something like that. But remember that we need to include there the remedial evaluations. So it's much, it's even a little time for this term. So be careful and be aware about that. So how I organize this? So I needed to decide and to pick the most important topics on grammar and reduce them into two. So I only picked Unit 10 and Unit 12 because 11 is about clauses. So I think that clauses can be a part of reminder for you to check and review on your own, which are not difficult. But 10 and 12, so we're going to begin today with 12 in relation with report to speech. You already did your research, your homework, and you can check and compare the topics. So we're going to begin with grammar unit 10. Afterwards, that we have the two sets of grammar 10 and 12, we have two sets in relation with vocabulary. Vocabulary is very, very important for Prueba Saber. And you will notice that when you take this Prueba Saber. So I divide the two sets into two parts. The set on vocabulary A will contain Unit 10 vocabulary Unit 1 and 2 and Unit 11 vocabulary 1. And the second set of vocabulary B will contain Unit 11 vocabulary 2, and unit 12, vocabulary 1 and 2. So we will reduce the three documents into two, okay? Well, now we have the mock test, which is Prueba Saber, the reading that is in relation with units 10, 11, and 12. Of course, we need to work much more on reading because that's what you're going to need for the test, on reading and practice more on reading comprehension, inference, and etc. etc. The notebook that contains again the three aspects. The first one is the grammar research that I already graded or that you sent last class. So it's 1/3 of the aspects. And then the class notes and the project, okay? In the private chart, I'll explain you today which are the pages of the project, okay? And finally, the portfolio. And now I need to make clear some aspects. As your if you have received the information about the mock test or Prueba Saber, it is planned for at the beginning of November. So my plan is that when we finish the grammar and grammar 10 and 12, so this week and next week, afterwards, we're going to make the final mock test Prueba Saber in order to advance in that part because it's very, very important, okay? And afterwards, we continue with vocabulary, A and B, the reading. Please begin doing the project. You can start now. For example, this week you make one section, the next week the other section, or the step 1, step 2, step 3. Later in the private chat, I'll send you the instructions for the project, okay? And remember that the notebook, I already have this part, which is the grammar research, and you need to be very careful with the class notes. So I'm going to grade the class notes when we finish the two sections, the two parts or lessons on grammar and the two parts of vocabulary. So you have to have class notes for lessons, for classes, okay? Plus the project. And finally, the portfolio. Now, after making this clear, this explanation on how the fourth term is organized on these instructions, we're going to move into the topic of today on Unit 10 in grammar. The topic, as you already know, because you already did your research, is in relation with reported speech. I only picked one which is the most typical in Prueba Saber. Reported speech is divided into affirmative statements, negative statements, interrogative statements, yes. But in Prueba Saber basically appears only one, which is the affirmative, and is the most, the basic one in the reported speech, because the others are a little bit more complex and are not included in Prueba Saber because they are B2 and not B1, okay? So we're going to focus on that. And so this is very brief. If you already did your homework, you can compare with what I explained and you already researched, okay? So reported speech, let's go over the definition. It is the grammar we use if we want to tell another person about a conversation that took place in the past. For example, a telephone call, some news, or story that someone told us, etc., etc. So here we have this guy saying, I'm feeling ill. So this guy on the right listened to him and was telling another woman. The woman is asking, where's Tom? So this is Tom. And his friend says he said he wasn't feeling well. So initially we see that in the report we have a report verb, which is said, and the change of tense, because in the initial or direct speech statement, the indirect changes, this is present continuous and changes into past continuous, okay? Good. Now let's go over some details about reported speech. So some little details is that in reported speech, the pronouns, the tenses, and the time words change. So for example, if the statement in direct speech is using the personal pronouns like my or I, as you are reporting in third person, yes, you need to change into pronouns of the third person like her or him or or in the possessive his, or she or he. If in the tenses, for example, if you're using the present simple, the verbs am or love, you need to change the tense into was or loved because you need to move one tense back in time. In relation with time words or adverbs on time and places expressions or complements, you need also to change them. For example, you have the expression or the time word tonight, and you need to change it into that night. In order to go in detail with time expressions and place expressions, we can see this chart in which is divided the expressions we typically use in direct speech on the left, yes, and those and here, and on the right we find the expressions or words that we use in report speech. So for example, in direct speech we use now, in reported speech we use then, today, that day, this week, that week, tomorrow, the next day, yesterday, the day before, last week, the week before. Here, there, these, that, and these and those, which are determiners. Yes, so you can check them up. Now, in terms of verbs, yes, it says that in reported speech we preferably use the past tense, but this is the basic, yes, because if we see these verbs are most of them are in the present, yes, so we have the verb be in the present, so in reported speech it becomes was or were. If we have has or have as the main verb or as an auxiliary verb, it has to change into had. Or so some typical verbs in the present like see into so. Modal verbs like can or can't can change into could or couldn't, or some future forms like will or won't into would and wouldn't. Okay. Now we'll go over the tenses. So if a sentence or statement in direct speech is in the present simple or present continuous, so it needs to move, or the present perfect, it needs to change into one tense back. If it's present simple, like in the two examples here, it needs to change into or either past simple, if it's present continuous into past continuous, if it's a present perfect into the past perfect, and the future, for example, in the forms of will, would, as I previously explained. Okay? Some examples with imperative forms, which is not typically explained. Yes? So on the left, we have the direct speech statement. For example, 1, Carol says, check the spelling before you print out your paper. This is a command. This is in the imperative form. So in the reported speech, we have to bear in mind that first of all, we may need a reporting verb. In this case, is told me. Yes. So Carol told me, and then as this imperative, yes, the imperative form, we use the infinitive form of the verb to check the spelling before I, so is you, so change the pronoun. I printed out my paper, changes your paper for my paper, because the message is directed, or the imperative statement or the command is directed to me. Yes, so I need to transform and be careful with that. If you need to go in detail, you can stop this video and check the examples number 2, 3, or 4, which are very similar. Okay. Now, word changes in reported speech, reporting verbs. Again, we see that if the original statement or the direct speech statement contains certain characteristics, you need to be careful with the change of pronouns, verb tenses, and expressions of times and place. Yes? Let's have a look as we explained in the previous chart. For example, in direct speech, we have this expression, I've seen this man before. If you see the verb here or the tense here is used in present perfect, yes, I've seen. So we need to transform it into had seen, the past perfect. And we have the determiner this, so we need to change it into that. So the transformation includes also a reporting verb. So I report in this way. She told him that she had seen that man before. Okay. Of course, you can stop again and compare the statements and check the other examples. Okay. Additionally, you can see that in this type of reported speech statements, we can include reporting verbs others than a tell or said. The most typically said or tell or told me. For example, you need to use the object pronoun when you use tell, told in the past, of course, but you can also use other verbs like claim, complain, promise, agree, insist, explain, warn, etc., etc. Let's have a look at the two first examples. The first one says, I'm trying to be helpful. If it's present continuous, it changes into past continuous. But let's have the idea to grasp the idea of the first one. It says, I'm trying to be helpful. So it's a claim. Now we can use the verb claimed as a reporting verb. He claimed that he was trying to be helpful. And here we have the past continuous. Second one, it says, I'm in trouble. I need help. So again, it's in present simple, both the verb be and the verb need. But additionally, what is the idea of this expression? This is a complaint, yes? So we use the reporting verb complaint. So the transformation. She complained that she was in trouble. So verb in present, verb in past, and needed help. If needed is in present, needed is in the past. Okay. So, and in this way, you make all the transformations. Those are the basics of reported speech. This is very brief, very clear. So remember to send your document until 2 p.m. today, which is only in relation with grammar 1. Your PDF is only grammar 1 on unit 10. Okay. Thanks a lot for paying attention to this presentation, and let's meet in the next class with unit 12. Remember, it's not unit 11, it's unit 12. Thanks a lot.